This video, we are going to cover how to install the N-Force interior LED light bar into a Jeep Wrangler. Let's start by laying everything out and pre-assembling what we can on like the workbench or your work surface. Now let's start by taking the rubber gasket and attaching it to the front side of the light bar. And we're going to do that for the full length of the light bar from end to end. We provide a little bit extra of the gasketing material to give you room for error. So you might need a set of cutters like side cutters or tin snips to cut off the excess before installation. Once you have finished the front side of the shroud, we're going to repeat the same process on the upper section of the shroud. So basically this is going to create a seal to the front and to the top. We're also going to provide you a couple of extra side pieces. They're smaller material, and those allow a better, nice, tight fit between the A-pillars when you put everything up against the windshield. And again, you might need to use a set of cutters to shorten those to the proper length. We're going to give you a little bit of excess as well. Also included is a couple pieces of foam that you can use for anti-glare. These pieces of foam are going to get installed on top of the gasket that touches the windshield. The combination of the gasket and the foam will help prevent flashback from coming back onto the dashboard of the vehicle. These are super easy to install. They have an adhesive on the back side of them, so just peel off the adhesive paper and stick them down. It's that simple. All right, let's move into the vehicle and we'll start taking apart the center stack. The first part we're going to remove is the door window switch assembly, which sits right in the middle just under the radio. Go ahead and disconnect the connector on the back side of the switch module. There's a little red locking tab that needs to be pushed sideways, and then it will allow you to release by depressing on the clip release itself. And you're just going to pull it apart from the switches. Using a 7mm socket and a ratchet, go ahead and remove the screw that's right behind where those switches were just located. Now, from this point forward, anytime we're referring to any kind of tools, we highly recommend you do not use any kind of power tools. You're going to want to do all of this by hand. Next, remove the 7mm screw in the sunglasses pocket on the top of the dashboard. Then you can kind of pop the whole upper center stack loose using your pry tool that we used to remove the switches earlier. The next step, go ahead and take the four-wheel drive selector and move it all the way back to the 4-low position. And then we're going to do the same thing for the transmission range selector. So we're going to move it out of park and let's pull it all the way back to the drive position. This will give us a little bit of room so we can pull the lower section of the center stack out, allowing us to work behind it. Using your plastic pry tool, go ahead and wedge it to the edges of that lower section as shown in the video and pull it forward, kind of work your way around it. Now, once you have the panel pulled forward, you have the option of just unplugging all the different connectors to give you a little bit more room to work. Although the only one that really needs to come apart is the power connector that's on the rightmost, on the back side. It's on the rightmost side of that panel. Now, at this point, we're going to actually assemble the power harness. And the power harness connects to that DC power source that we just disconnected, that we're showing you in the video at this moment. So you're going to take one end of the T-harness that we're supplying for you, and you're going to connect that to the harness that's part of the vehicle. And then the other end is going to go into the backside of the DC power source in the center stack. Next, let's take the glove box out. It's pretty easy. Open the glove box, and then on the side, squeeze the upper section toward each other while rotating the glove box even further downwards. This will allow it to come loose off of the pivot point. Now let's go ahead and feed that power harness through the back side of the dashboard between the center stack and the glove box. We're going to go ahead and leave that here for right now, and we'll come back to that part a little bit later in the video. All right, using your panel tool, let's go ahead and pop off the end cap cover for the dashboard. All right, for now, let's move up to the windshield. So we're going to need a T20 or a Torx 20 bit to pull down the visor on the passenger side. Next, we're going to pull the whole upper corner section of the A-pillar down, but we need to pop out one last screw. Now this is a plastic screw and it uses a Phillips bit to remove it. Once that screw is out, let's go ahead and give it a gentle tug to pull that upper corner section out. Now, if it feels like your panel's not going to come off, go ahead and grab that panel tool. It'll give you a little bit more leverage to work with while popping this off. Using a Torx 25 bit, we're going to pull down the roof strikers. Now there's going to be one on the driver's side and one on the passenger side. Make sure you get both of those taken off. Those are what we're going to attach our brackets to when we hang the light against the windshield. Next, let's go ahead and pull down the lower section of the A-pillar cover. This usually comes off pretty easily. Now at this point, we're going to start running wire. So the first thing we need to do is give ourselves a little bit of slack coming out the top of the A-pillar. And we're going to want to take that wire and stuff it into this little nook running down the A-pillar. Let's go ahead and put the A-pillar back in the place it was originally at and give it a little bit of a push as we line up the clips. Now propping that wire up, let's go ahead and put that upper A-pillar cover back into place. And keep the slack kind of hanging out the front as shown in the video. Go ahead and put the screw back in place that holds the A-pillar cover. And then using that Torx 20, let's go ahead and put the visor back into place. All right, so now we're going to take the mounting brackets for the light bar and we're going to loosely attach them to the bar itself using the included hardware. Now this next step is a whole lot easier if you have an extra set of hands. Let's start by picking up the light bar and starting to move it into place. Now while we're doing this, we also need to take the slack that we left on the passenger side A-pillar out. Now at this point, we're about ready to put the light bar into place. Let's go ahead and push it up above the mirror so it's up in that corner between the windshield and the roof line. Once the lighting assembly is in place, let's go ahead and put the roof strikers back in place. And we're going to take those strikers and we're going to thread the screw through the striker and through the bracket for the N-Force interior light bar. Go ahead and leave this loose for the time being. It doesn't matter which side of the vehicle you start on, but we do need to do this on both sides of the vehicle. Now, one last thing, don't tighten everything down just yet. Let's go ahead and keep it loose so it's just in place and being held up. Now at this point, let's put forward and upward pressure on the light bar to really squeeze it into the corner where the windshield and the roof line meets. And let's go ahead and start tightening the striker brackets. And we're going to repeat that on the other side. Once you're done with that, we're going to continue keeping that pressure, that upward pressure towards that corner. And we're going to go ahead and tighten the brackets to the light bar itself. All right, so now let's go ahead and run the light bar power wire that's hanging out the bottom of the A-pillar. And let's take it kind of down towards the bottom of the dash and run it into the glove box through the side, just under the speaker. And we'll go ahead and let it just hang out the dashboard. Let's go ahead and put that center dash back together. So we're going to start with that lower section of the stack. Make sure everything's reconnected that we disconnected earlier. Let's go ahead and put that into place and give it a quick push till we hear all the clips snap. If you move the four-wheel drive selector backwards, we can go ahead and put it forward. And let's go ahead and make sure the transmission's put back into park at this point. Following that, let's get the upper section of the center stack clipped and pushed back into place. Then let's go ahead and reinstall the two screws that we pulled out, the one behind the window switch and the other one up at the top there where the sunglasses holder is located. All right, let's go ahead and reconnect the window switch assembly to the harness and insert that back where it belongs and give it a quick push and you'll feel it snap into place. Now we're going to go ahead and take the red wire and put it into the terminal block, and using a 1/8 inch flat blade screwdriver, just go ahead and tighten down the set screw that holds that in place. And then repeat the process for the black wire. Red goes to red and black goes to brown. And then reinstall the glove box by hanging it really low so that it catches the pivot and then rotating it up. And as you get to those tangs, just push them inwards so that they'll clear the dashboard and give it a little push a little bit further. And then you should be able to close the glove box at that point. Notice, depending on your switch position, you're either going to get an all white light bar or you're going to get an all amber light bar. And this gives you the benefits of both worlds out of one light bar.